Okay, great. Thanks. Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the April 15th, 2021 Historic Preservation Commission meeting. This is a regular meeting of the Montclair Historic Preservation Commission. Notice has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting a copy of the notice on the first floor of the municipal building and by sending a copy to the Montclair Times, the Star Ledger, and the Herald News. We are also being broadcast live on Montclair Network Channel 34, and you would be able to connect to us as well on the YouTube channel. As this is a remote meeting using Cisco WebEx events, it is open to the public, and you can access this event at the meeting link, which is listed on the website. To participate by phone, please call 1-408-418-9388 and enter the meeting code 129-249-8802. So with that, Mr. Petto, could you please call the roll?
Sure. Chair Bennett.
Present.
Vice Chair Hyman.
Present.
Mr. Rooney.
Here.
Mr. Greenbaum is absent at this time. Ms. Kane-Levy.
Present.
Mr. Reimnitz is absent at this time. Mr. Karasik. I see him.
I have to unmute here. Okay, I'm here.
Mr. Karasik. And Ms. Hickey.
I'm here as well.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to welcome Ms. Margaret Hickey tonight as our historic preservation consultant. She's from the firm of Conley and Hickey, and it will be in place of Mr. Conley tonight, giving her recommendations. So why don't we move ahead to the approval of the minutes from our last meeting of March 15th. Has everyone received the minutes and read them? Does anyone have any changes or adjustments?
I reviewed. I don't have any amendments.
I have one on page 2. The referral on Lorraine Avenue. The commission requests on number 2. It says the applicant is to employ true stucco for the proposed facades and ensure that both the existing and proposed stucco surfaces are smoothed to support the painting. I think rather than support, if you would replace that with enhance, I think it just gives a different meaning to it. And I know that this has already been seen by the planning board, but I think that should be made clearer in our minutes, because we spent quite a number on that, quite a bit of time on that. And then on the certificate number 2021-09, Bros Sandwiches, it says approved with conditions, but there isn't, the number of approvals is not listed, and we have that on the other C of A's. Great, okay, thank you. All right, so if anybody has any other, doesn't have any other changes, may I have a motion to accept the minutes in a second?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great, thank you. So we will now move on to public comment. Is there anybody in the waiting room, Graham, that wants to make a statement to us?
We do have, it looks like it's mostly applicants for this evening, but to do our due diligence, we should allow them into the meeting just to make any public comments if they have any. So I'll just hold, hang on one second. Let me just stop sharing this for a second. Okay, so all members of the public, I'm going to mute all the lines for public participants. If you have any comments that you'd like to make for the commission, now's the time to just speak up. This is a time to just make public comments. All public lines are now unmuted. If you have a public comment, just let us know.
Hearing none.
Okay, I'm not hearing any.
Okay. And okay,
here's
thank
Mr.
you, Graham.
Reimnitz.
And I think
Mr. Reimnitz is here now.
and I think Mr. Greenbaum is here.
Okay. Very good. So 7:35. Okay.
Okay, so first order of business, old business, is the referral from the Board of Adjustment, application 2719, 92 Bay Street, New Assets, LLC. This is a conditional use variance and site plan approved for conversion of the existing two-family dwelling to a four-family dwelling in the R4 three-story apartment zone. We are reviewing it as a referral because it's situated in the Pine Street Historic District. And I just like to say that we did have a revisions committee meeting this Monday, April 12th. We met with the applicant to discuss the revisions to the plan that they presented to us at the last meeting. It was moved to this meeting with the understanding that the revisions committee would look at this again, which we did. And I'd just like to say thank you to the applicant and the architect and their attorney for working with us. I think you've come up with a plan that our members will now review. So if you could discuss what you have here in front of us, I'd be glad to share it with the rest of the commission.
Absolutely, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for your time this evening. Once again, Michael Piramali, the law firm is Gascione Pamaco, 524 Union Avenue in Belleville. Here tonight presenting 92 Bay Street, our new design for 92 Bay Street, block 4207, lot 5. As Madam Chair mentioned, we're located within the Pine Street Historic District. As we recall, this application was originally heard by the full HPC at the March 18th meeting. We're back tonight for a second go at it. We strongly believe that the building design now proposed represents a collaborative effort between the members of the commission and our project architects, and will be a great enhancement to the existing structure while maintaining the historic elements of the building and the character of the area. Tonight I have our architect Ali Qureshi to explain the revised design. We also have our applicant and property owner Guillermo Agates here to answer any questions that the members of the commission may have. We have renderings here tonight. These are the new renderings. They've actually since been revised from our Monday meeting to reflect the comments that were made at the Monday subcommittee meeting. And in addition, this plan also has some of the existing conditions and the surrounding properties, existing conditions, just to show the members of the commission how we're trying to fit in with the character of the neighborhood. We have renderings tonight. We do not have a fully engineered site plan yet. Once the HPC approves, we will then finalize with our site engineer prior to submitting revised plans to the zoning board for review. So at this point, I would call our architect Ali Qureshi to go through his revised plans and explain the changes that he's made.
I believe Mr. Qureshi was previously sworn. Is that correct?
He was at the March 18th meeting. That is correct.
That's correct. So he remains under oath. As your applicant, I think also testified at that meeting. Did he?
Okay.
I can't remember, but in any case, the architect can continue.
Okay. These the revised drawings are a result of a couple of meetings with the subcommittee of the Historic Commission, and you can see that we made significant changes from our previous design. So this building is now, probably the easy would be if you go to page 8 2.0, which shows the renderings. So what we did was we kept the existing building mass similar, actually same as existing, and then we pushed back the major addition 10 feet. So this way we still are keeping the style of the old building and just adding to it with the major addition. We changed the materials as well. Now we're gonna have a white hardy plank, black frame windows, historical looking windows, double hung, and keeping the porch floor as masonry to keep the original character of the building. And basically the third floor has dormers, so made a significant change in the overall look of the building. The floor plans, still we are working on it, so we're gonna adjust the floor plans in relation to these elevations. So the final building will look like this. There may be a few inches of window location which may change a little bit, but the overall massing and the look will remain the same as we show on page A 2.0.
Thank you. Does that conclude your testimony?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much. As I said before, the revisions committee met on Monday, and Graham has prepared a draft. I hope everybody was able to read this. If you haven't, I just want to go over some of the things that we requested. It was Caroline, John, and myself that met, and we requested that the following condition of any approval by the board would we asked them to change the gable dormer on the Sherman Street facade to 2 smaller dormers, which they did. We requested that the applicant use hardy plank for the building, which he's just testified that they will. We also recommended the retention of the existing masonry porch base right there, which they have agreed to. And the porch railings should be finished in a white color. And then as a condition, which is what we do for all of our requests, is that the applicant return to present a finals approved plan with all the final details for review. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that the applicant has changed their design to what we suggested as of Monday. So with that, I'm going to open it up to the commission members. If anybody has any other further questions, why don't we start with Jason?
Are there going to be any changes to the existing detached garage?
Yes, actually, we agreed to remove that garage altogether.
And it's just surface parking, I guess on.
Yes. Yes.
In addition, this is Michael Piramali again. In addition to surface parking, we're also working to provide some outdoor open space area. So we decided to, if the HPC agrees, to remove that existing garage, use that area for existing parking, and then put an open space area closer to the building, to the rear, maybe a patio area also to the side near the railroad area.
And just to be clear, we did discuss that during the revisions committee meeting. And we were aware that they had suggested that they were going to remove the garage. Mr. Reimnitz, do you have any further questions?
No, I think it's such a vast improvement from where it started that I commend the applicant working with us. And I think now the devil is in some of the details of the eaves and the trim and a few of those things, but I guess we'll see more later. So I think it looks it's great. Thank you.
Mr. Rumini?
Yeah, it's a huge improvement over the original one. It looks more like a Montclair house, a house in New Jersey. I agree with John and that the details have to be worked out, and I'm a little bit jarred by the size of the windows versus the size of the dormers. Maybe the windows could be larger or the dormers could be smaller, but you can work that out. But now it looks like we've got a real entrance, both on I don't know what street that is, but both entrances look like they're a little bit more ceremonial. So.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Greenbaum?
So I agree, it's a big improvement. I do have some questions. The materials used for the columns and also for the railing, can the architect provide us a material specification?
Well, they can be either painted wood or painted vinyl.
So, do we have any, obviously we can state our preference. Madam Chairman, do we have the authority or the ability to specify the material for these?
Well, that was one thing I was going to add, that we did discuss, I brought that up at the meeting and suggested that the columns and the railings be painted wood. So we can add that on number 3, which deals with the porch.
Okay, yeah, that would be something that I would personally like to see. One of the other issues that I'm concerned about is, again, is this a question section or a comment section?
Question.
Okay, the width of the clapboard lapping, do you have any idea at this time what the lapping width of the clapboard will be?
Well, they're gonna be the same proportion as we show. I don't know exact dimension of it, but what you're looking at is what we're gonna suggest. So the width, I don't know at this time. Maybe it's like 8 to 10 inches.
Okay, I think I would just make well, I guess in the comment section, I'll make my comments on that. I noticed in the picture too that you don't have, and I recognize it's a rendering, any kind of foundation exposure. The clapboard comes flush to the ground. I'm assuming that you're going to have some kind of exposed, oh, there, I see. Okay, so you do have some foundation exposure.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I guess that answers my questions for now. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And Graham, correct me, but do we have a copy from Tom? A report?
We do not have a revised report on this. We just received the drawings that are being shown here this afternoon. So.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. So then why don't we go ahead then with the, open it up for discussion. Then, Mr. Hyman?
I didn't know, Kathleen, though, if you want to ask if Margaret has any questions on.
Oh, sorry.
Since she's here. Not to put you on the spot, Margaret, but here.
That's okay. But I'm reserving for comments, but I agree with Mr. Rooney on the dormers.
The dormers,
The windows.
The portion of the dormers to the windows, or the windows to the dormers, something needs to change.
Right.
Okay. So with that, we'll open it up for discussion. Mr. Hyman, like to make any comments?
I just want to state my appreciation for the applicant and their professionals in making the revisions to conceptual design to bring it more in line with the existing structure was. This is a true addition rather than which was more like a demolition and construction.
I think, Jason, we're having a little bit of trouble hearing you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, overall, I'm in
There we
favor of this project and would recommend the variances that were proposed be granted with the conditions that Kathleen mentioned.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Graham, do we have, I'm getting a lot of feedback right now. Is it something I'm doing or?
Jason's shirt.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you, Jason. John, what are your comments?
I guess I already made my comments in the question section. And basically, again, I think this looks great, big improvements. And thank you. I wish all applicants were so eager to work with us or not, or at least they worked with us. Maybe not eager to work with us, but so appreciate that. So thank you.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Rooney.
Yeah, it's a huge improvement, and they have to work out the details, but it's really nice looking now.
Okay. Oh, Caroline, I'm sorry. I didn't call on you for questions, but you're not up on my
That's okay.
screen.
I just would also reinforce that I'm really appreciative of the applicant's willingness to work with us. And I think it's going to be a really lovely addition to the neighborhood.
Thank you. And Mr. Greenbaum?
My comment at this point would be everything that all of you have said, I concur with. As John had pointed out, Mr. Reimnitz had pointed out, it's the devil's in the details. And so I would like to suggest, if I may, that on the corners of the building, it would be historically appropriate and also structurally appropriate to have pilasters. Perhaps paneled pilasters would be appropriate for this style of home. It's a nice way to terminate the corners as opposed to just having the hardy board, wrap. To have pilasters on the elevations. That would be one suggestion I would like to see if my colleagues agree. The second thing is that I find that sometimes when people build buildings of this style and they use hardy board, sometimes the lapping of the clapboard is too narrow, and it just doesn't fit right proportionally with the facade of the building. And I would like to see a more traditional lapping. And maybe, John, maybe you could tell me what the typical lap would be in your experience for clapboard. Do you have a particular?
Well, I think for this style, it's relatively narrow. It's not 10 inches.
No.
I would say it's more on the order of 4 inches, to tell you the truth. And I think when you say pilasters, David, I think you just mean corner boards, right? You're not.
Yeah. Corner.
Okay.
Oh, right.
Corner
Just
boards,
it's a corner. It's a corner pilaster. Ideally,
pilaster to me means something much wider.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I mean, given my druthers, I'd love to see a paneled pilaster, something a little wider. We also don't see any of the gutters on this elevation. The leaders. So I just think that this kind of is reminiscent of especially certain elevations are reminiscent of a nice New England style home. And I find that the vertical pilasters on the corners just create a relief. And I think if you're going to go to the trouble of making this, and to your credit, as pleasing as this is starting to be, I'd like to see, some of those details, as John pointed out, like the lapping of the clapboard and the pilasters, be done in a historically appropriate way. I mean, since you've gone to this length, it would be nice to see that level of detail. So I don't know if my colleagues can comment on that.
I agree with that. The more detail, the better. But
I actually don't agree. I don't
agree?
think that. I don't think the original house had that, and I think it's sort of gilding the lily with decorative features that are not necessarily appropriate.
It's not decorative.
I agree with you, Caroline. I'll backtrack. Now, I think just simple corner boards is more appropriate. It's not really a federal style building.
It's not. I like seeing mitered corners. Pilasters to me makes it a lot more formal than this building is. Although pilasters do have their place, but I don't think it's right on this building. It's drawn with just mitered, and I think houses around the turn of the century were mostly mitered. So I don't know if you can actually do that with hardy board, but
yeah, I would agree with that as well. So if there are no more additional comments, if everyone can refer to the
Wait, one more question. May I ask? In the course of a question and a comment, I noticed there's no moldings around the exterior of the window. There's no framing around the window. Do you have intention? I realize that this was a rendering that you just submitted today. do you have intention to have a molded, okay, in this picture I see you do have that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
So
hard
there
to
are
read.
lintels and there's a surround.
That
I
was
just-
one of the comments that they responded to. They added thicker trim around the windows and an apron, exterior apron below the windows.
Okay, that was something that was not visible and I,
Yeah,
at
it's
least,
hard to read.
right.
Oh, when I see it has corner board.
Yeah, it has corner boards there.
Oh, good.
Small ones, but they're there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. So again, if everybody would refer to what Graham has put together. And I think on number 3, we need to add that the columns and the railings be painted wood that are on the 2 porches, the entry porch on Sherman and the porch on Pine Street. And number 6, we should add another one that says that the clapboard should be a traditional width, which would be
4.
right.
4 to 5
4 to
inches.
7 inches.
Yeah.
5 inch.
I find it, personally, I find it more attractive to have a wider lap, but that's my personal, especially on a multi-story building like this. It gets to be too, it's just a personal preference. I at least to me, 8 inches.
Do something different in the gables.
Right. So if we put, just to be clear that the clapboard doesn't go beyond 8 inches, so we could say 4 inches to 8 inches.
Well, yeah, I think too narrow is my concern as opposed to too wide.
Right. Well, 4 inches is a traditional clapboard
That's
width.
traditional.
Right. And then the number 5 that
I think I would just recommend refraining from a specific dimension. And I think going with just traditional width, and then our 6th condition, which requires them to come back to review this item, I think will allow for, sufficient level of review to ensure that it's, satisfactory to the style of the dwelling.
That's a good idea.
Starting to get too detailed can
Right.
prove troublesome when the zoning board starts to impose these conditions in their approval.
Okay,
Right.
but we do need to add an additional one about the proportion of the windows to the dormers.
Right.
That needs to be fleshed out.
Yeah. Up in your item number 2, Hardy is a brand name, so probably should be capitalized.
Thank you.
Does number 1 go away then? So you corrected that?
Yes, technically that does.
Okay.
So
And
just,
I'll update this to reference the plan that was reviewed this evening. I did already. The applicant prepared a revised plan, and
just a side note, the Hardy lap board comes in 8 1/4 inches. That's the standard.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's an
Okay,
overlap,
thank
there's
you.
an overlap on that, so.
Okay, so I think we've covered everything that was discussed on Monday. And I too would like to add my thanks to the applicant and just reiterate that I think this will be a real improvement to the neighborhood. So I know you're in front of the planning board. When is that? Zoning board, I'm sorry. When is that, Graham?
the applicant is tentatively scheduled. I believe it's the May 19th meeting of the Board of Adjustment.
Okay, great. And then we'll see you, we'll meet with you in a smaller committee for the finishing details.
Post approval.
Okay?
Great, absolutely. On behalf of the applicant, we want to thank the commission, specifically the members of the subcommission, for their time. I think we've come up with a great design, both for the applicant and developer and Montclair as a whole. So we want to thank you again for your time, and hopefully we'll be back to speak to you after we get our zoning board approval on May 19th.
Good, looking forward to it. Thanks a
Good.
lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night.
Thank you.
Okay, our next on our list is application 2724 544 Bloomfield Avenue. It's 544 Bloomrest LLC, which is known as, we'll be looking at the Faubourg restaurant. And did everybody receive, let me just see what we have here. Has everyone?
There's a revised plan that was submitted by the applicant, but the applicant is also, he's here this evening and he has a presentation that he put together that's now shown on the screen as well.
Okay, and was everybody able to read the our consultant's report that Graham sent through?
Oh, I wasn't able to read that.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I'll-
I just want to, if you have that, and we are reviewing this again. This is a recommendation, site plan amendment for a recommendation for the
The planning board application.
planning board. Okay, and we are reviewing this because this is in the Bloomfield Avenue Historic District, and we have seen this before. I believe it was 2 years ago. When was this? 2 years ago, when they took over the unused bank building and turned it into the wonderful restaurant. Okay, there you go. That's our. Why don't you just
Sorry,
leave
I'm
that up?
back, by the way, guys. I was out for a while.
That's okay, Ira.
Really?
Yeah, I lost my the internet for some reason.
Oh,
Now it's back.
okay. Okay, great. So whom do we have from the
We have Tom Reynolds, the architect for the applicant. Tom, is anybody else here that we should bring in?
So I believe the owner and
Olivier?
yeah, I think Olivier and is Mark on as well?
Mark S. is here as well. I'll bring them both in. Okay. All right. They're all here now.
Okay, so Mr. Krasik, would you like to swear them in, please?
Did we lose him?
Ira, are you there?
His internet connectivity is limited, it says again. So,
Oh,
he's
so
coming
maybe,
back.
Jason, would you like to swear them in?
Sure. Can any witness testifying just state your name and affiliation for the record?
Tom Reynolds from the architect's office.
Anyone else? Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're going to give this commission will be truthful and accurate to the best of your ability?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Reynolds, then, can you go through the presentation that you've prepared?
Sure. So
Tell us what you propose.
yes. So Falberg has been interested in installing some sort of barrier that will be able to be transparent and allow for outdoor dining during more parts of the year. Sort of the COVID situation has sort of sped that process up for them. We had looked at a system that's used in New York and also internationally for a retractable glass roof and wall system. And if you go to the next slide, the next page there. You can just get to the next one. This is the survey is prepared by Aldridge. So what's going to end up happening towards the Bloomfield Avenue side, we've got the planter wall that was installed. And then right behind that will be this glass wall that'll come up. And then there's going to be a set of columns that are a foot off the neighboring building that hold the roof structure above. And then a similar glass wall toward the rear that'll sit on the retaining wall that was part of the approval for the building behind us. And then if you go to the next slide. So you're looking at sort of the two conditions. The way that these panels are manufactured, the top row is fixed, and then the rows below that are going to slide down. So the one that's over the door, those two are going to slide down behind the door, and then the 9 panels that are behind the planter, those will all slide behind the planter wall.
Wow.
And you can almost imagine this somewhat like a sliding glass, a sliding door on its side. So each of these have like an individual panel that then will stack behind the next one, the next one, and the next one, working its way down. There's a motor that moves these things. And then if you go to the next page, this is a similar product made by the same manufacturer. So you can actually sort of see how each of these glass panels is their own sort of thing that sits in a track on the steel and then can slide up and down. But yet the top row is fixed. This isn't sort of exactly, but this gives you an idea of what those panels kind of look like. And then to the next page. So this one is a look of what's sort of the existing steel. We're going to match that same color, that same finish of the metal. It's going to have that same matte black look to it. The glass will be a clear glass. And the next page. So this just gives you sort of a street view. This is an overlay of the 3D model, the point cloud from the drone photogrammetry, and then the sort of a preliminary model version of the wall itself. And then the next page. And this is just where your information, sort of the way that the roof sort of works. So the roof slides upward to allow that whole thing to be open. So when it's closed, it covers the whole thing. When it's open, the sort of angled panels on the far, what we'll call the south or to the left, those are fixed. And then the ones that are closest to the existing building where the motors are, those are fixed. And so those all slide upward. Over what's that already undulating roof surface that is at the restaurant there. And I think for now, the other two are just sort of information. So if you could go back one, we'll just take any questions or comments.
Okay, so why don't we begin with questions from the commission? And Mr. Reimnitz, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any real questions. I understand what is being proposed, and it's quite an elaborate structure here to do this. I think the finish of the metal is great. It's clear glass, and we couldn't ask for much more than that. So,
thank you, Mr. Hyman. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I was wondering if you, Graham, could you go back to the picture of the similar installation? Yeah, I'm curious about the sliding glass ceiling. You know, what the depth is, if all of those window panes are on parallel tracks. Do they sit flush when they're closed? Is it weatherproof or watertight?
So if I understand your question correctly, they're asking about the weatherproofing and how those panels meet. So much like a sliding glass door, when those edge panels sort of come over each other, they will create a waterproof barrier that will make sure that the people sitting in the restaurant don't get. And actually, once you go to the one after the sort of that last one we looked at, there's a section. One of the things I want to point out, yeah, here. So we already have from the original construction a underground stormwater pipe that runs along the side of the building. So at the edge of the panel, there's a gutter system that runs down. Those gutters will go bring the water inside along the steel beams coming down, and then tie into the existing underground stormwater system. And then there's one panel, because the neighboring building is slightly lower and we're going to be slightly off from them. That one panel is removable, weather dependent. But that we'll catch the water and make sure that nothing's coming in through the side as much as possible. There still will be some, but it'll be tight to the building. And we already have that row of planters along that side. So the way the seating works out, it works pretty well, I think.
And what's the thickness of that cross beam that's supporting the roof?
So the beams that are running from the top to the bottom on the track, I was just converting those from metric to imperial because they're coming from internationally. But if I understand them, they're around the 6-inch mark. So these are a rather thin system.
Thank you.
Ms. Kane Levy, do you have any questions?
No, no questions.
And Mr. Greenbaum?
Yeah, I just want to understand the because it's not clear to me the retraction. Can you just guide me to the course of travel of the glass panels? Are they moving from left to right and coming down the wall? How are they traveling?
So for the roof system, they slide. So in the open position, they'll all be towards what is now the left side of your screen, towards the existing building, and then they stack on top of each other, and then they'll slide down. I don't know if you can see my screen that well, but like, you know, this book would be one panel, the iPad would be another. It would slide down, and they still have an overlap at that seam, and then the next one and the next one working its way down.
And so that's basically the one plane. That's the roof, and then there's retractability on the front face.
And the front face would do almost the same thing, but instead of coming down, it would go up.
It would go up,
Yeah.
and they would ultimately they would be underlapped under where those fixed panels are.
Yeah. So on the bottom, there's the ones over the door. Will catch the one in the middle, and then sort of those 3 columns will catch those rows. They'll come down behind the planter.
Got it. And is there anything on the back side, or are these the only 2 sections that are? It's the roof?
There's a similar one going to the back side of the building, and those will all come down as well.
Got it. So 3 sides, roofed and 2 faces.
Yes.
Okay. I don't think I have any other questions. The glass panels, each panel. Do you have an idea of the actual size per panel?
So they are, okay. I did have it. Give me a second to pull up the engineers.
Well, here's my basic question. You know, you have the glass windows in the front face of the building facing Bloomfield Avenue on the existing structure. And I just wanted to understand if there was any consideration to the proportionality in terms of the verticals to the verticals on the front face of the building.
Yeah, so these are what's the term like with it? It's more of a product that we're purchasing. They have like a fixed size. We were really looking at sort of the proportion of the space we had, and I think it fits well there. I do sort of understand your question to the horizontal. I'm sorry, the vertical nature of that pattern that exists. I can take a look. I can't guarantee it'll fit in that space as beautifully as one might imagine.
Thomas, if I may, the purpose of those is to slide and open. And I think those front window of the building are too big, and I think it won't allow us that flexibility there. We want to be able to open those windows.
So the width, you're saying the width between the vertical extrusions on the front are too wide to match up with the structure you're proposing.
Because the existing are about 6 foot, give or take, center to center, and this new one is just over 6 foot when you make that metric conversion.
So they're pretty close.
It's pretty close.
Okay, you know what? I just think that there's a certain harmony that you can create if you can have control over the horizontals and the verticals, where the actual divisions are. And I just would hope, and I imagine you probably tried to create some kind of commensurability, some correspondence between the horizontals and of where the top of the window.
Yeah, and so if you look at the one, so you have the two that sit over the door in that entryway. We used the sideline of the door and then split the ones above that because we couldn't get a panel as wide as that.
Right.
And then anything exact to what was there would just not land properly. And then we split the other side in thirds, and it worked out because of where the door was placed in the original design. That pattern was already there. That worked out really well. So I think visually it will look it won't have the incongruity that I think you're concerned about.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was a consideration, and my suspicion is it was based on the quality of the restaurant as it is today.
Yeah.
I just, if I needed to kind of have you think about that, had you not already, I wanted to bring that to your attention.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. I have a question. Is this a system that you mentioned it's European? I think that's what you testified.
Yeah, so obviously Olivier is French and is very well versed in sort of how the restaurants in Europe do outdoor dining, especially in narrow corridors, and sort of using the alleyways there to create more space. And so he was one that helped bring this product to our attention in this process. And we reached out to the manufacturers. They have an office in New York. I think their main headquarters is in Turkey. And so we've been working closely with them in terms of coming up with a solution that works here.
And my next question, is there any consideration with the sun and, under a skylight and that expanse of glass as to heat buildup within that space?
So, to the south side is the rear side of the building. During the bulk of the day, there's the sun's going to come from over sort of the Investors Bank side around the back and then come down around the back of our building. So most of the day, this is actually rather screened from direct sunlight. And then when the new building goes up behind us, that will sort of take care of that back wall side. It's significantly taller than our structure and pretty close to the property line, to a point where I don't think someone's going to end up baking under the sun in a way that will be a huge concern. We can reach out to the manufacturer and sort of see if there's some, because they also do make some other products that are more like screening. We see if they have something that can be added additionally, but I think for now we're really focused on the glass roof.
And the south wall, that south-facing wall, that'll be all glass. And you just said that's going to open onto the rear of the building that's proposed?
So the building in the back, part of their approval was to put a retaining wall across that's to separate the two properties.
Right.
Originally, the owner and of that property and the owner of our building had discussed a connection, but as part of their site plan approval, that was, they agreed to the retaining wall. So we made sure that we sort of kept to that, and our system will sit on top of that retaining wall.
Oh, I just wondered if you had any control over what the material of that retaining wall might be.
I think the approval for the neighboring property had a detail.
Okay.
Yeah, they have a detail of using what looks like a CMU wall, and I mean, maybe we can give it a good partaging or something, or put something on our side to make it a little less just block. But we can discuss.
Yeah. So before we open it up for discussion amongst the commissioners, I just want everybody to keep in mind that this is within the historic district, the business historic district, Bloomfield Avenue. So I think part of the discussion has to be how this structure, which will be certainly new and innovative, fits in the historic district. So with that, Mr. Hyman, would you like to open the discussion?
Did you hear from,
No, Miss Hickey.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Sorry, I'm used to running the meetings and not being muted, but anyway.
Well, I think there has already been a discussion, part of your number 2 of your letter is about the size and the mullion configuration.
Right. So I do. I mean, I appreciate actually the graphic that showed that the windows slide, because that wasn't clear on the drawings that I received. So that makes sense to me. But can we go to the image that shows an example of one that's installed? So I just have a question in terms of the graphics of the system. It looks to me, and I could be wrong because these windows are in an open position, but it looks to me like the verticals are actually thicker than what's being represented on the drawings. And the horizontals might be a little different. And I just want to be sure that we're giving an accurate representation of what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I am waiting for a very, very clear drawing from the manufacturer.
Okay.
But as I understand it, it will be thinner than what's being shown here. They gave me the size of the steel columns, and they are smaller than what is shown there. So yeah, so they're 100 millimeters, so that's less than 4 inches.
Oh, okay. So then and then so when the window is open, correct? There will be no mutton because the mutton really is the frame of the opening.
Yes.
Okay, so you'll actually achieve on a nice day the long verticals that we're looking for. So you'll have the best of both worlds.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I mean, I like it, to be honest.
Okay, Mr. Hyman.
Yeah, I agree with Miss Hickey. I do like this design.
Are we on questions or are we on comments?
Comments.
Okay. The questions. So again, I just wanted to echo the support for this application. I do think that this design is cohesive with the surrounding structures, and I think it'll enhance the streetscape and the functionality of that commercial district.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Reimnitz?
I think it's all fine. I think a little bit of it has to do with the transparency of this and sort of, this was an outdoor space. Essentially, this is a new building. It's a glass building, and I realize that the panels open and close, but it's essentially a structure enclosure. So I think the success of this will be the ability to sort of see past this, and that it's just a screen wall, which I suspect it will be. So I don't really have a problem with this. But if someone else was erecting this by freestanding by itself up and down the street, I'm not sure it's it's appropriate. Here it's probably appropriate.
And Mr. Rooney?
Yeah, it's surprising how it really fits in with the existing building. With all the expansive glass and how it all works. And it also shows you that a nano wall can work in 3 dimensions, whereas normally we only see it vertical and going horizontal. This one is in all 3 dimensions. And normally it doesn't work when you have on the front, an even number of spacings, which we do on the existing building, and an odd number on the addition, but it works very well here. I think it's going to work pretty good. The only question I have, which is not an HPC question, it has to do with the zoning board of adjustment and the planning board. Does this adjust your occupancy in the building? And I'm just throwing that question out. You don't have to answer that.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll get an answer at their next hearing. Miss Kane Levy?
I can support the application. I think it does work well with the adjacent building, and it is transparent. It's a greenhouse, and I think the spacing reflects the storefront at the neighboring building in a harmonious way. And in materials as well. Is it clear finished aluminum is what the framing is? I believe. And if that's what's at the neighbor, that's acceptable.
I think it was the dark aluminum, the dark finish. Mr. Reynolds, is that the?
So we're gonna match the same dark matte black finish that all the exterior steel metal has. So that's a picture of the existing steel that's at the site. We're gonna match that same look so it ties in with everything that's already there.
Okay.
Did you consider, because the extrusions on the front face of the building are a natural aluminum color, like a silver aluminum?
So, yeah,
your thoughts on that?
We did take a look at that, and I think that there's something. So for me, I think it's something more unique. Like this, though it does relate sort of size-wise, that it more relates to the space that it's in. It sits somewhat different than the two buildings while still bringing them, together. I think matching the aluminum look would, when you're inside this space, especially, and you see everything looking like this, and then you have like the front that's aluminum, that wouldn't tie in the same way as when you walk into the inside of the building, and that aluminum sort of translates more often there, because we do have that shiny feel between the metal of the bar on the inside having that same aluminum undulating face, having the railings, everything tied more into that, and then everything outside is this this more matte black look. I think that this is a better solution. I do sort of understand what you're saying, but I don't know how it would tie into actual space.
That shows good consideration. Valid thinking. Madam Chair, did you want me to make any comments at this time?
Yes, that's what we're on, David. Comments.
Right, I didn't know if you called me yet. So I would support this application. I think this is a wonderful amenity to have in town, and to be able to make use of it in inclement weather, as well as times of cold temperatures. I think this would be a great addition, and I think that this is a great asset. And I imagine that they would take great care, just as they had in the creation of the restaurant and the whole interior and the structural work that was done. I would imagine the same degree of care and consideration will be reflected here. So I would support the application.
Okay, thank you, David. So it sounds as though all of the commissioners are in favor of this application as presented.
Yes.
Okay, great. I would just, again, it has nothing to do with HPC. I would just worry on how that water is going to be carried down if you get a downpour and everything is closed. That's would be my only concern. But again, it's not an HPC consideration. I think it does add a lot to the historic downtown district, and I think it'll be great when it's done. So good luck. I know you're going on to the zoning board, correct, Graham?
Planning board.
Planning board. It's either one or the other. Okay, so when is this on for, Graham?
I don't have the date actually confirmed. I think, were you guys for the 26th? I think possibly April 26th.
I think that's
Oh,
a
great.
okay.
Okay, so it'll be soon. All right, well, thank you very much, and thank you for an innovative design that I think will be a great asset.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm. So our next application is a referral from the Board of Adjustment, application 2727 at 32 Macopin Avenue. This is a bulk variance to construct a second floor addition to the dwelling in the R1 one-family zone, and we are hearing it because it is in a potential historic district, the Upper Montclair Commuter Historic District. So do we have the applicant?
Chair Bennett, wasn't 41 Harrison Avenue next? Okay, I think you skipped. 41
Oh, I'm
Harrison
sorry.
Avenue is the next application on the agenda.
Sorry. Okay. It's, I was looking at the time. Referral from the Board of Adjustment, application 2726, DeSanti Realty, Inc., 41 Harrison Avenue. Conditional use variance to convert an existing two-family dwelling to a three-family dwelling in the R3 Garden Group Zone District. And
we have Rick Jarzembowski. Are you here for the application this evening?
Yes, Graham.
Okay, great.
And is who will be presenting or describing, Mr. Sionis or?
No, I will. Rick Jarzembowski from Sionis Architecture.
Oh, great. Okay, well, welcome.
Mr. Jarzembowski, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're going to give this commission, truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Ready?
Yes, please go.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, this is an existing two-family house that, as said, is going to be converted to a three-family house, which is a conditional use. At the present, there are two entrances to the house, two main entrances. One is the traditional front door, which is in the center of the front elevation. And the second entrance is on the left side. There's a stair up to the second floor. Okay, and really the only change that we're proposing on the front of the house is to rebuild that stair, which is in poor condition. If you go to the north elevation, yeah, thanks, Brian. You can see that stair. That's the side yard view from the north, and there's the existing door up to the second floor. So as I said, that stair will be rebuilt. Right now, there's a fabric awning over that door, and that awning will be removed, and a new roof built over that door. Then behind the main house, the bulk, the existing house, right now there's a one-story deck, and that deck will be removed, and an addition will be built in the back. Connecting that addition is a slightly lower two-story addition between the main house and the bulk of the addition. We're keeping basically the style and general size of the windows of the main house on the addition. We're keeping the size of the clapboard about 4 1/4 inches, keeping corner boards that match the house. We lowered the roof line pitch from what's on the main house to, make the addition secondary to the main house, and also to try to keep the windows on the rear of the main house as open to the exterior as possible. That's, in general, that's the application.
Thank you very much. I neglected to, as part of the introduction, I do want to add that the subject property is located within the First Residential Historic District, a New Jersey listed Register of Historic Places district, which is identified in the historic preservation element of the Township Master Plan. The First Residential Historic District includes 240 structures built between 1740 to 1932 and contains many of the 19th century estates which developed from the farms of the first settlers. So do you have anything else to say in terms of this application, or have you covered it?
Yeah, I think I've covered it.
Okay, thank you. So we'll open it up with questions now from the commissioners. Mr. Hyman, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Graham,
Graham,
can you
do
go
we
back
have
to the site
photographs?
plan?
Do we have photographs too of the existing building?
One photograph in my memo. Hang on one second. I was just going to pull that over. Just give me 1 second.
So comparing that to what's on the site plan, is that curb cut and gravel driveway being eliminated?
Yeah, yes, on the left side, that front driveway and curb cut are being eliminated.
Okay. And the existing two-car garage in the back will remain?
Yes, it will.
And the two-story addition in the back, how much of that was the existing deck? Is it within that same footprint, or is it larger?
The deck actually extended out a little bit further than the addition. It was a very large deck.
Those are all my questions.
Mr. Rooney?
Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you. I think it's in keeping with the building, and I don't think you really actually see much of it from the street, the addition. I noticed that the house is right now is white. Are you going to paint it the blue?
The owner hasn't determined what
Okay.
color he's going to use at this point.
And you said you're going to remove the curb on the left side, but keep the trees?
Yes.
Okay.
So, some of those trees are on the adjacent property.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably. And can you actually see the addition from here? I mean, I'm looking at the street elevation.
From the photograph you're looking at, no, you wouldn't see the addition.
Because it says the proposed 2.5 story or whatever it was, looks like it comes out farther. Right,
Closer to the property line.
right, closer to the property line.
It is a little closer to the property line than the house, but not closer than that stair that's on the left
Right,
side.
so you actually, you really actually won't see much of that addition at all from the street.
No, just from certain angles looking down the driveway, you know, the garden apartment on the left side, you could see it,
Right,
you know, just at certain points.
right. I'm just concerned from the street. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Kane Levy, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Mr. Reimnitz
No, I'm good. Thank you.
and Mr. Greenbaum?
No, I don't have any questions at this time.
So Margaret, why don't we, can you go over your memo that you've written for us, please?
My main concern is actually the hood over the side door. Graham, if you can pull up the front elevation of the existing building.
Oh, of the existing.
Well, yeah, that's fine. You see how the architrave of the porch sits right at the level of the door, and if you go to the drawing for the proposed hood over the side elevation door, side door. The next one. Yeah, it sits extremely high over the door. It kind of looks like it's floating. And I think proportionally your architrave to your eave is ill proportioned. So if you look at the front porch as the precedent on where those typically sit, I think maybe re-examining how that's detailed would just complete that design. I mean, I like the hyphen. I think that was a really good. That's a really very good. A good way of adding to a building and really keeping the scale down of the addition while gaining it looks like a significant amount of space.
Right. In response to the hood comments, I think you're right. I think when we drew it up, we were concerned about we were entering, from the side with the stair. But we have that bump out there that kind of pushes the stair out a couple of feet. So, we were concerned about the brackets being an interference from walking there, but that really isn't a concern. So I think we could bring it down and, correct that, proportionality that you're speaking of.
That was my main concern.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So why don't we open it up for discussion now? Mr. Hyman, do you have anything to say about the all-over design, how it will fit in within the
overall
Historic
design is
District?
fine. I don't think, I agree with Steve. I don't think we're going to see much of this addition to begin with. And overall, it's an improvement. Curb cut and gravel driveway. So full justification.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Reimnitz.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with this, mostly because you can't see it. If you could see it, I would have a lot of comments because I don't think it has a lot to, the addition doesn't have a lot to do with the existing house other than being the same color. But I think because it's behind the existing, it's fine.
And Ms. Kane Levy?
Yes, I agree with what John just said, that because it will be minimally visible, it's acceptable. But I just thought of another question. I see that you're painting the house, but are you recladding it, changing anything about the clapboards? Are they going to be? Okay.
No, there's several different styles of siding on the house, and those are all, they're original, and those will all remain.
Okay, great.
Oh, so it will be wooden clapboard, the addition?
No, the addition, well, we haven't decided, we've noted it to be either wood or fiber cement. But the original house is all wood, and that will all remain.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rooney?
Yeah, I agree with John in that since it's in an invisible place, I don't think we have anything to say about the addition.
Thank you. Mr. Greenbaum? David?
Pardon me, I apologize. I thought I was unmuted. The only thing I would say is that I'd like to be sure that the addition's clapboard is matched with the existing house's clapboard. Other than that, because it's in the back of the house, I don't feel we have much purview, but I would prefer, I would like to be able to feel comfortable that they're going to match the existing clapboard.
Just wanted to note on the plan, it does say proposed wood or fiber cement horizontal siding to match existing exposure.
Okay, perfect.
Hey, good.
Okay,
Which
so
is 4¼ inches, you know, for your information.
4¼ Okay, thank you.
4¼
So taking Miss Hickey's comment into consideration about the hood over the door, the existing door, that should be lowered as one of the recommendations. Everyone agrees about that?
Yes.
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 Okay, and then is this something that doesn't necessarily have to come back to us for
No.
approval of materials? So we could send this forward, Graham, to the
Zoning board.
zoning board? Right.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Right, thank you very much.
Okay,
Great.
good night.
Night.
Okay, so next up, we do have 32 Macopin Avenue. And we don't have a planning report on this. This is a subject property consists of a one-story ranch-styled residence with a side gabled roof constructed circa 1956. And the project description is the construction of a second story to an existing one-story residence. We are reviewing this because it sits within the Upper Montclair Commuter Potential Historic District, where most of the houses, most of the buildings date from 1900 to 1929. And as I stated, this house is circa 1956. So we'll wait for Graham to put the photos up.
And I have this is the existing dwelling.
There you go.
Small ranch.
Okay, thank you. As I said before, it's a referral from the Board of Adjustment, application 2727. Matthieu Silberstein, who is that the owner? Is he here tonight?
Yes. Mr. Silverstein is here.
Yes, I
Okay.
am.
And who else will be joining you?
Peter, our architect, Peter Wilcox, is actually here now.
Oh,
Yes, I
see.
brought him in as a panelist in the meeting as well.
Okay, thank you.
And just for some additional summary, just for the benefit of the commission, the applicant in this case is seeking two variances, one for a front yard setback for construction of a small entry area to the dwelling, and then also maximum building width. Building width in the R11 family zone cannot exceed 65% of the width of the lot. In this case, the existing building is at 66% of the width of the lot, and the second floor is proposed to align with the first floor below. So it's kind of more of a technical thing where they're just matching the existing.
Thank you, Graham.
You're welcome.
Mr. Karasik, would you swear in our witnesses, please?
I think Mr. Krasik is having connective troubles again. He's gone once more.
He's gone. Okay, Mr. Hyman, will you do the honors, please?
Can the witness state their name for the record, or all witnesses testifying? I'm sorry, am I a witness? It's Matthieu.
Yes, you are, Mr.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry. My name is Matthieu Silberstein. I am here with my wife, Nicole Silberstein, and very good. Anyone testifying?
And then Mr. Peter Wilcox. All right.
Peter Wilcox. Okay. Do you both swear or affirm that the testimony that you're going to give this commission will be truthful and accurate to the best of your ability?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do. Thank you. Duly sworn.
Okay, thank you. So Mr. Wilcox, will you walk us through the project?
Yes. So this is, we're doing an add a level to an existing house that you can see in the photograph on the
Oh,
bottom. of the
excuse me,
drawing.
Mr. Wilcox. Is any,
Yeah.
we're getting a lot of feedback from an echoing.
Yeah, do you have your sound on, Mr. Wilcox? If you could just turn the sound on your computer down a little bit, that might help.
I could turn the sound down and then
That's much better.
That's better.
So,
You can turn it down for your presentation, then for when we do questions and answers, then we can turn it back up. So,
oh, okay.
go ahead.
Yeah, we're taking an existing ranch style house on Macopin Avenue and adding a level. And the idea was to turn it into basically sort of a cottage style home that we think that would blend with the neighborhood. We have vertical board and batten siding on the second floor and clapboard siding on the first floor. You see on the front elevation, sorry, I'm getting there. Double hung windows in the front, some awning windows in the bathroom on the second floor. The windows on the first floor are shown here as new windows in existing window rough openings. There is a front porch because of the layout of the first floor and the location of the stair. We're asking the Zoning Board of Adjustment to build out the front entrance approximately 30 inches to give us a little more room at the front entry as you're entering. I realize that the drawing I've given you, that stair is actually, though it meets code, it's actually pretty steep, and we're hoping to bring the front of that the stair where you see the up arrow down into that vestibule a little bit. So, and we have a bracketed roof over the entry stoop to, again, just kind of, basically a cottage style with the exposed timbers and brackets to hold up the roof. The siding material will probably be hardy siding, hardy board siding, both the clapboards and the board and batten siding, asphalt shingle roofs and fiberglass shingle roof, and wood trim or composite trim that will be painted. You won't be able to tell the difference between it and wood. In other words, it's not vinyl siding; it's a wood composite. We have an existing chimney on the west side that has to be extended up because of the addition, and that would be enclosed in a fireproof backer board enclosure and stucco. So it would look like, basically a chimney that's been stuccoed on.
Okay, thank you. Does that conclude your testimony then?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll open it up for questions now from the commissioners. Mr. Hyman, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, so I guess this is more of a confirmation from Graham. The only variance is for that front yard setback for the new stairway entrance?
And the maximum building width.
Oh, okay.
The existing dwelling has 66% of the width of the lot, where 65% is the maximum permitted. They're aligning the second floor with the first floor, which is an existing non-conforming.
Gotcha. That's all I had.
Let's see, Mr. Rooney?
Is the siding on the first floor going to be replaced?
Sorry,
Mr.
there we go.
Wilcox?
Yes.
It is going to be replaced, so we're doing
Yeah,
some
yeah,
stuff with it. And below the first floor, it's just going to be stucco over concrete.
That's correct.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Ms. Kane Levy?
Do we have some photographs of the current condition and some contextual photographs showing the streetscape?
Mhm.
So are you keeping the fenestration at the ground floor? The window size of the window openings?
That is correct in the front. And we're removing the door on the east side and putting in a larger window on the east side.
Oh, okay. All right, those are my questions.
I'm sorry, any other further questions?
Not for me.
Okay, Mr. Rooney, did I call on you already?
Yes, you did.
Okay, so Mr. Greenbaum, any questions for the applicant?
No, not at this time.
Mr. Reimnitz, any questions for the applicant?
Yes, I have just a couple of questions. The windows are made out of what?
John, we can't quite hear you. I don't know. We're having some trouble hearing. You're not muted, but it's a little quiet.
Hold on. Oh, can you hear me
Oh,
now?
there we go.
Better? Okay.
Yes, we can hear
Sorry,
you.
my microphone wasn't in front of my mouth. The windows are made out of what material?
Good question. They are aluminum clad wood interior, Pella lifestyle windows.
So aluminum exterior.
Correct.
I have a question comparing the front north elevation to the east elevation. It looks like the clapboard on the little addition is different. If you zoom in on the
Oh,
east
it's the height
elevation,
difference. Yeah.
it doesn't line up. Is it meant to line up or meant to be like the one?
That sounds like a drafting error. It'll all line up. Yes.
Everything's going to line up. Okay. And the material of the board and batten is, what is the board constructed out of?
The board is hardy siding, board material.
Okay, so it's a
It's
fiber
prime
cement
site
board.
heating.
Okay. And the fiberglass shingles. Okay. Fiberglass shingles. Okay. Okay, I think those are my questions at the moment.
Thank you. Mr. Greenbaum, do you have any questions? Did I ask?
No, you asked me already and I didn't have any further questions.
Okay, so everybody's been, I have a question. Was there any consideration, if you go back, there you go, to that rendering of the front, the windows, the two windows that are on the second floor in the center, was there any consideration to line that up with the entryway?
That's a good.
Unfortunately, well, those windows line up with the second floor hallway. And the door is pretty well set for where it needs to be in the corner of the living room downstairs, so they don't line up. I hear what you're saying. In a perfect world, they would, but they don't.
Okay, and then the two windows on the top, second floor to the west, those two small windows there, what is the purpose of those? I'm just wondering why there's a change of window design on the front facade. A bathroom.
Right now.
So those are bathroom windows. And I just realized as you brought that up, it's actually two windows in the bathroom and none in the closet. I didn't realize that the plan was not showing this. It's to have more privacy in the bathroom, to have room for towel bars below the window.
So are there two windows in the bathroom or a window in the bathroom and one in the closet?
No, there are two windows in the bathroom and no window in the closet.
And no window in the closet.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the elevation, the front elevation?
1 second.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, perfect, thank you.
I have a question. Can I ask?
Sure. Yes, please.
Okay, could we go back to, I'm sorry, could we go back to the plan of the second floor for a second? Okay, it looks like to me the hallway windows are centered over the roof below.
Mm.
But on the exterior elevation, they're not centered over the roof.
Good point.
Below. So it looks like to me, unless there's something, I think maybe it's just another drafting thing. But it seems like you can get the windows centered over the.
I hate to say it, but it's another drafting thing. Yes.
Okay.
In earlier scheme, we were trying to move the front
That's
door.
okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
It gets Kathleen what she wants. Can I go back to the front elevation again?
Well, while we're on that what you're looking at, can I just point out that the windows openings are equal on that elevation, on the second floor openings, but they're not on the on this one.
What do you mean?
It seems like the plans don't align with the elevation.
Right, they don't align at all.
Yeah.
Okay, John. Well, we have.
No, you're
I
right.
think Ms. Hickey has a lot of those comments in her review
Yeah.
memo.
Yeah. Well, I think here I could. Well, those are questions. I have comments, and we'll get to comments. Okay.
But do you have another question, John?
No. I think we've identified sort of the misalignment between plan and elevation, and I think to go on to a comment quickly is I think we'd want to get things centered on top of each other. It seems like there's the opportunity to do that and make the alignments a little bit better than what we see at the moment. So
okay,
that just takes a little extra work there.
Right. Okay. Thanks. Thank you, John. So Ms. Hickey, can you, I think everybody's asked their questions. Can you go over your?
I have one more question. What is a fiberglass roof shingle? What does that look like? Not asphalt, but.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's what you would refer to as asphalt roofing, just standard.
Oh, okay.
Asphalt roofing. The industry calls them fiberglass shingles as well.
Okay.
Okay. Ms. Hickey.
Okay, so my comments will probably have grown since you started, but I did find that the second floor probably is proportional to the first, although to be honest with the board and batten siding, it does skew perception. The fenestration on the first and second floor really should align. The use of casement and awning sashes on at the bathroom, and based on your plan, it is at the closet. Should be reconsidered. And we'll go back to the plans because you gotta have other coordination issues. I found the roof over the front entry to be ill-proportioned to the bump out, as well as the entry door takes up way too much of the wall space of that extension. I mean, I can understand the reason for the extension because those capes tend to have a very small or non-existent entryway. Board and batten siding really should be reconsidered, and then if it is permitted or agreed to by the board, the 2 foot between the battens is not correct in terms of historical precedent. That's a little too wide. There was one window on the east elevation, but I think the plans probably should be re-examined again. That's set too close to the edge of the house. And then there really was a lack of detail on what the material of the siding. I mean, I know the applicant stated it, but it should say on the drawings what the materials they're planning to propose. But can we go back to the plans there?
Sure. Do you want the floor plan, Margaret?
Yeah, the floor plans. Actually, the
Okay.
first floor plan first.
First floor, okay.
Yep. So if I'm reading this correctly, it shows 2 windows on the first floor when there's only 1 window existing and only 1 window drawn on the elevation. So I don't know if there's actually changes happening in the study or not. And then also, I think the applicant should re-examine the as-built to make sure that the placement of the entry porch is actually going to be where it's notes in relationship to the larger tripart window on the left-hand side, which I can't see in the pictures because of the tree, but can we go back to the elevation? I'm not sure that's drawn correctly either. Yeah, so on your elevations, you have muttons in your windows. Are you planning to put the muttons back, or was that just missing by accident as well? Your existing windows have muttons, 6/6s.
No, we were not planning to put the muttons back.
Are those actually currently wood windows with the true divided lights existing, or are they vinyl replacements?
The windows in front are wood with true divided lights.
Well, then I'd also recommend that the board consider maintaining at least that look, since they appear to be original. Can I reserve to have additional comments after the board talks it through?
Yes.
Okay.
So why don't we start with our comments then from the board if Ms. Hickey's finished. Let's see, Mr. Heineman?
Yeah, overall, I don't have a problem with the variances being requested, but given the issues with the design proposed by the architects.
Oh, thank you, Jason. Mr. Reimnitz? John, you're on.
Yeah, we can't hear you. Did you put your microphone up again? No, we still can't hear you, John.
We can't hear you, John. Well, what?
Could
John?
we go to someone else and come back to John?
All right. We still can't hear you, John. Mr. Rooney?
With the massing and the extension from the front, I think that makes the place much more. It's got a much more distinctive look, and I also think it's nice to have a covering over the front door. With the siding and the spacing and things like that, I think that can all be worked out. I would prefer to see double hung windows everywhere since we have it. Or we talked about having a 6/6?
Yes, I think that's what's there now.
6/1 probably works, but yeah, it's going to be okay.
No more questions then for the
No more
applicant.
questions.
I mean, okay, Mr. Greenbaum?
I have a few thoughts. I'm looking right now at the roof line, and I'm just wondering why you didn't go higher from the lower roof line to the, like the basically the raised section, it seems like you didn't add that much height to the height. I don't know if it had to do with the pitch of the roof that you were constrained, or could you just comment on just why it seems like a very, the bump out of the roof doesn't seem to be that significant relative, you know, it just doesn't seem right from the side view. Mr. Wilcox?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, I mean, it just
You're
seems,
asking why is there not more? That it's about a 2.5 foot drop from one roof to the other.
I just would have thought that you'd probably want to go a little higher to get more ceiling height in that, unless that would have had an impact on the roof line angle from a.
That could be done. I could look at that.
Well, I'm just saying, it just seems to be almost like, I do appreciate that bump out. I do appreciate that projection. I think it's absolutely appropriate and historically consistent with a lot of the homes in that neighborhood. But it just seems to be almost like a gratuitous decorative element when you, presumably you can get more vertical space. Maybe or the second roof line, drop that down. Can I ask you a question? What is the height of the ceilings on the second floor?
They are.
Mr. Wilcox, you've gone mute.
He froze. He's having connection issues.
It just it seems like something doesn't make sense to me from the bottom left corner view.
On the side?
On the side, on the very bottom left, that elevation there, it seems like the box, the second story section, and where that transverse is, like it just something doesn't seem right to me proportionally. And then the roof line, it seems to me that it doesn't achieve what I think the whole purpose of that kind of roof line is intended for, which is to give you more ceiling height in that section of the house. It doesn't seem to make sense, that's all. And also, the height of that horizontal above the two windows below the center window seems very high relative to, and so I just wonder, it looks like you have a third floor. Does that horizontal correspond to the floor height? Just something doesn't read correctly to me.
The horizontal on the east facade, well, you can see the attic floor height is shown to the left.
Attic floor height. Okay.
That horizontal is a little bit above the attic floor. So it's a good 1.5 foot above the ceiling.
Yeah, I'm being visually aesthetic here, but it seems to me it's too high. It could come down a little, and I would imagine that the that punch out, the kind of the dormer, I can't think of the term for that right now. Can someone help me with that? John?
Dormer?
Yeah, the dormer just seems, well, it just doesn't seem right.
So could you show the front facade, please, Graham? David, would you comment on the placement of the windows?
Yeah, I do have thoughts on that. I mean, I recognize that your plan has takes some priority, but it seems to me that I would prefer to see the windows on the right be more corresponding with the windows on the left on the second floor. Yeah, it's very, I mean, these are very personal reactions, but it seems very static. It doesn't seem as refined as I think it can be. I do appreciate the dormer projection, but it doesn't, again, from the side view, it doesn't seem like it accomplishes anything. And then, I don't know, I don't love the window configurations on the front. I feel like there could be a more thoughtful approach.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, great. I think to me, it's all about the front here because that's what we're gonna see. And I think to me, it comes down to 2 or 3 comments. One, I think the board and batten on the second level is too far apart. I think the windows need to be centered over the windows below, and I don't see anything in plan that keeps that from happening. And I think the one corner window on the, which elevation is that?
This is the west elevation, the corner at the rear, John. This window. Oh, we lost you again,
I
John.
lost you, John. Can't hear you.
I think he was trying to say that this window is too close to the corner.
You can't hear me.
Now we
Can
can.
hear you
Go
again.
ahead.
Okay, I was going to say it's too close to the corner, but I think if it's at the rear, I have less of an opinion about it. I think to me, it's all about the front facade. And as far as the dormer in front stepping up a little bit, I think that's pretty nice. So in general, I'm in support except for those few items.
And those few items, I just want to go over those again. The board and batten is too wide. The windows should be centered, more consideration to the placement of the windows. And what
Yes.
was, and
That's
okay,
it. Those
that's
are my
it.
comments. Oh, one
right.
more thing. One more
Mhm.
thing. There are no gutters and leaders here, which, you know, it's not clear to me whether that center dormer dumps onto gutters, the lower gutters on either side, and then the leaders are in the corner. That's what I would suggest instead of bringing the leaders down from that upper dorm, directly down from that upper dormer.
Mhm.
For the record, I agree. And also for the record, we are leaning towards making the board and batten 12 inches on center instead of 24.
Great.
Okay.
I
Okay.
agree with that.
And I have one little suggestion. The little porch on the under the front door, instead of making it peaked, if you flatten it, or at least the front part of it flattened so it's centered under the right window, it might balance out the house better.
Which are you referring to? You're talking about the window on the right of the door?
No, that one. If you center a flat part of the dormer, if you make it
You're saying make it
somewhat
more of
of
a shed dormer as opposed to this type of gable.
well, or yeah, a shed or a what's the word? But anyway, if you make it a flat piece there, a flatter piece.
I think his windows on the second floor are centered over the opening below. It's just not drawn that way.
Well, that's the question. Why don't we ask Mr. Wilcox? Is the elevation as you presented is that your intended plan or intended submission, or is the plan alignment the plan? Which one is it?
It's the elevation.
It's the elevation. So
The plan was an earlier scheme that accidentally got submitted. It's largely correct, but it was the final placement of windows and the front entrance that didn't get corrected on the plan. The
So there's
elevation is correct.
There's no way to align the second floor windows with the portico.
Mm-mm.
I mean, this is where I think, that the recommendation from the commission should just be that the windows be aligned. Perhaps the strategy is that this isn't a paired window, it's a single window, and then you can kind of shift a single window better instead of a paired window. I think that the commission should just give direction to the zoning board that the commission would like to see the windows aligned and, allow the zoning board to impose that condition on the applicant and their revisions. And then also, you know, as we typically do, have the applicant submit a final as approved plan, you know, demonstrating compliance with all the conditions back to the HPC just for review to note that things were adjusted.
Okay, good. Thank you, Graham.
So yeah, rather than getting into specifics and trying to decide how things align here this evening,
Right.
it's easier just to give them some direction so they can move forward.
Right. Margaret, do you have any additional comments now that you've heard our discussion?
No, I have mine on the record.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. What's that?
No, I'm fine. I stated what I felt was problematic.
Okay. All right, great. So thank you. Graham, as it appears now that what we've been discussing,
So I largely have, I guess, 3-4 conditions, I would say. The first is to narrow the distance between the board and batten to 12 inches as agreed to by the applicant. The second is to center and align all the fenestration on the front facade. The third is to revise the plans to incorporate gutters and leaders and additional final detailing. And then the fourth is that the applicant is to submit a final as approved plan for review by the HPC should the zoning board render it approval.
and I'd like to further discuss the original windows that are there that are original to the house.
I think if I could just recommend something, having seen a lot of these applications over at the zoning board, I think that the recommendation should be that the applicant either, you know, attempt to maintain the existing windows or at least match the divided light scheme of the existing windows on the facade.
Okay, I just want to make sure that that's included. Does everyone agree with that? So
Yes.
Okay, so we have, that makes it 5 recommendations, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, I think we're pretty clear on that. Do you have any questions, Mr. Silberstein?
No, I just want to point out that we do intend to keep the original windows on the first floor at this point.
Great.
On the facade.
Sorry, is your recommendation, is your recommendation that the second floor windows maintain the same style as the first floor windows, or just that we keep the existing first floor windows?
Well, I think
I think the intent based on the discussion of the commission was that the front facade window should be consistent,
right,
you know, between the first and second floor.
Okay, they should be consistent.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just for the benefit of the commission, this application is scheduled for appearance at the May 5th special meeting of the Board of Adjustment.
Okay.
Good luck.
Okay.
Yeah, good luck.
Good project.
Thank you very much, guys.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, number D, which is the C of A certificate number 2021-13 Palazzo Bistro at 11 South Fullerton Avenue. Applicant has requested to carry this matter to the next meeting, which will be on May 20th.
Yeah,
So
I
we
could
will-
just supplement comments on that. So the applicant, in this case, has retained an architect to develop a better plan for the storefront facade work, and they'll be returning at the May meeting with that revised plan.
Okay, great. And Caroline, do you have to go?
I do, so I'm gonna. say
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you at the next meeting. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, our next application, our last application, is a referral from the Board of Adjustment, application 2728, Jeffrey and Svetlana Balancio at 41 Tuxedo Road. This is a bulk variance for addition to dwelling in the R1 one family zone. This is the Tremont Place Potential Historic Resource Area. And I believe that this, I'll get my notes. This home is circa 1936. It is a 2.5-story brick colonial revival residence. And the description for the, there it goes, is a 2-story side addition, which will be to the right of as you're looking at this property. This is a corner property, so it has a high visibility on Tuxedo Road. Who do we have here to speak to the application?
The homeowners are here this evening.
Hi,
Yeah.
welcome.
Hello, thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Karasik, will you swear in our homeowners if you're?
Mr. Karasik has not made it back, unfortunately. He
Okay.
texted me and he's having his internet issues can persist, so.
All right, so Mr. Hyman, will you do the duties, please?
Sure. Can you both just state your name for the record?
Sure, I'm Jeffrey Balancio.
And Svetlana Balancio.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're going to give this commission will be truthful and accurate to the best of your ability?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Duly sworn.
Thank you. Is your architect here tonight?
He's not, unfortunately. He's ill, so I do have some prepared notes and can give you some background and a little bit of detail around the prospective construction.
Okay. All right, so Graham, if you put up the, shall we start with the, maybe the facade view that you had up before?
Sure, the existing or the proposed?
Yeah, the existing, there's the existing. Oh, why don't we leave that up? Is that, or which one would you like to?
You can stay with let's start with the facade view, the existing, Graham, and then we can go into the proposed structure, and then we'll read through the notes and it can kind of guide us through that.
Okay, so as was noted, the property is on 41 Tuxedo Road. It's a corner lot within the Tremont Place area, which is known for a Dutch colonial style, developed predominantly between 1900 and 1929, and our home was constructed in 1936. The existing house has influences of the federal style, naturally evolved from colonial, with indications being its brick facade, ornate wood trimmed and molded centered entry. And there are some precedents of front yard additions on corner lots in the Tremont Place area, 38 Ardsley, which has a flat roof, which is consistent with what we are trying to do, and 31 Ardsley, 34 Oxford, 38 Oxford, 75 Cambridge, all have low slope roofs. All of those precedents are single story. Our proposed addition is a 2-story. And that's to accommodate the needs on the interior that we're looking to execute on. Our property has 2 front yards and an unbuildable east side yard. The addition facing the Tremont Place is a logical location to provide needed additional volume without disrupting current function on the interior or rear yard amenities, which include our patio and driveway, which cuts up through the backyard. Through thorough study, the needs cannot be met with the existing interior volume of the house, which is why we're going through this variance. Our proposal is to remove the existing covered porch due to its dysfunction to our specific needs, as well as the style of the porch structure being a bit of a mysterious hodgepodge of woodwork. We're sensitive to the town interest of keeping the addition subordinate to the bulk, scale, style, and materials of the original house. The materials are meant to be lighter in weight compared to the original brick of the house, which will control the bulk of the addition.
Pause for a second.
Sure.
Graham, can you go to the actual addition picture?
Sure.
Thank you. Good.
Yeah. Wood is what we're preferring for the addition over a more massive feeling brick look. On the proposed addition, what is not glass will be 100% painted wood. Trim work is present but minimal on the original house, making the addition mostly about trim is a way to differentiate historic from new. The roof is flat. An alternative pitched roof would yield an overly bulky appearance. The use of a flat roof is a response to not overwhelming the historic building. There will be no gutters or leaders. Storm drainers will be handled through roof drains with leaders concealed within the exterior walls. The proposed north and south sets of egress doors are relocations of the existing egress doors, and windows are to be painted wooden within the family of the historic character of the relocated double doors and existing house windows. We're looking at window manufacturers such as Marvin that can approximate the historical details of the existing doors, though the existing doors and windows are installed within brick openings, and the new doors and windows will be installed in framed openings. So we're looking to really accommodate any and all comments and recommendations from the commission, but this is our proposal as we have it today.
Thank you. Anything else to add?
No, not time.
Okay, thank you very much. So why don't we start with questions from the commissioners? Mr. Hyman, do you have any questions? The homeowners about their proposed addition.
No questions.
Mr. Rooney.
Other than style, no. I think that the proportions are okay.
Mr. Reimnitz? Uh-oh. John? Any questions for the homeowners?
Yes, just a quick question. It looks like we're 6 feet closer to the property line. Is that what this is showing?
That's correct. That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And you're saying that all the exterior surfaces that are painted white are wood?
That are not glass or wood. Correct.
Wow. You might want to, well, I'll have a comment on that. Okay. I'm good. No more questions.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Greenbaum?
So I have a quick question. What is the setback of the new elevation from the street?
From the property line along Tremont Place, it's 10.54 feet.
Is that to standard ordinance?
No, that's why they're going to the zoning board.
Yeah, we're going to the zoning board for them.
What would be?
Graham,
The front yard calculation is shown in the zoning table on the front page of the plans that you have in your possession. The second front yard from Tremont Place, the required setback is 38.3 feet, and they're proposing 10.54 feet.
So
and the existing porch is 16.64.
Right. So it's a 6 foot further encroachment into the required front yard. This will really be jurisdiction for the Board of Adjustment in their proceedings.
But are we in a position, we certainly can advise them of our concern about it if we have concern. Is that correct?
Certainly make comments, certainly.
Comment. Yes, and as far as it being in the proposed historic district.
Right, whether or not it encroaches on the street or the streetscape.
Exactly.
We can make that conclusion.
You can make that comment. Yes.
So I'll let you follow on me.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
That was a question. That was about the setback. Can you go back to the elevation, please? The height of the structure, how high are the ceilings on the second floor?
It would be consistent with what we have now. I'm sorry, maybe 9 feet. Apologies, I can measure if we need to.
So did you have any consideration? Did you at any time consider going a little shorter, a little lower than this height?
No, what we're trying to do is keep the second floor consistent with what is existing there now. So Graham, if you can go to maybe the floor plan, that might show what the upstairs will be used for. So the ceiling must remain the same because it's a flow through to the existing space.
I mean, you could have a drop, a ceiling drop.
Okay.
So, what is the total height of that the new addition?
Thank you.
What is the height of the
Proposed elevations? Do we have drawn elevations? Here we do.
Yeah, right there.
So second floor elevation. Okay, so do we have a total height?
About 8-foot ceiling. Yeah, I mean, total height is 17 feet to the top ceiling, you know, with the cornice work, which is exempt from the height calculation. I mean, the maximum height that's permitted in this zone is 35 feet. So the applicant in this case is only proposing, it looks like this is to the ceiling, so possibly to the roof, about 18, 19 feet. The height proposed is permitted under the ordinance. It's the setback from the street frontage that is subject to the variance.
Was there any other variance request besides that?
No.
Okay. Okay, that answers my questions.
Okay, thank you. So Margaret, can you discuss your comments, please?
Right now, the COVID-19 vaccines
memo?
are available to millions
Sure.
of Americans.
So the couple things I found just in terms of historical precedent and working with the existing architecture is I thought the detailing of the cornice along the top was kind of the opposite of what you would normally see. Usually it gets a little flatter over the dentil where it's looks like it's convex. That was one. I thought the cornice sat a little too close to the rake on the gable end. Possibly because the addition might be a little too wide in relationship given its height. And then I know you clarified on your application, but I thought the drawings probably should have been noted what the materials were going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And just I did the math, and the ceiling heights are about 8 feet on each floor level, so they're not.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. So why don't we
I
open
just
it up?
want to note one addition for the record. The applicant does actually, in fact, need 2 variances. The second variance is for the maximum building width.
Can you explain that?
So additions that widen the principal structure are subject to the provision of the ordinance for maximum building width. The proposed addition will widen the structure by 6 feet, which will be more than 65% of the width of the lot.
Thank you.
Okay, so and then the other variance is the setback from the
front yard
street.
setback, correct.
Right. Okay, so with that in mind, why don't we open it up for discussion now? Mr. Hyman, what are your thoughts on this application?
Yeah, so I mean, stylistically, in general, I think I'm okay with it, but I think it's more the rendering can seem a lot more overbearing than it appears.
Oh, you know what, Jason, we can't.
Yeah, I think the renderings make it seem a bit more overbearing than they appear on the 2-dimensional architectural plans. I think if you do adjust that cornice a bit, make it a little more, that might help. And perhaps narrowing it a bit so that there is a bit more relief between the existing house and the addition, just so it's set back a little bit more. But I don't know how much square footage you would end up losing.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? No? Mr. Rooney, comments?
I think it's a very sensitive and interesting design. I would try to match the size of the windows with the existing. I mean, you've got the pattern right, but they seem to be taller. They seem to be more bold, and the corners of the existing or of the new building are a lot more formal than the existing building. But I would think Mr. Greenbaum would like that. As it extending into the, you know, what they're going for their variances, I don't have any problems with that at all.
Okay, thank you.
Can I make a comment just for clarification? I don't know if you caught it, but what you see, the north elevation, the middle door will actually be our existing doors that are on the inside of the house. So we're relocating the old doors, and it will be the same on the back side as well, on the south.
Really?
Yes.
Huh. Well, it just didn't look like it lined up, but if it's the
Yeah.
same, fine. I
Is
think
your
that,
feedback on the windows on the top part or is it on the bottom?
well, it's on both.
On both, okay.
The top part is, I mean, it would, I can understand why you're doing it because it'd make it very, very nice on the inside, but the top part, I think you should relate more to the existing building.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you.
Mr. Greenbaum?
That's the word I'm looking for.
So, Mr. Rooney is correct, is that I am favorably inclined to the basic architectural formality of it, and I'm glad he recognizes my great appreciation for that. And if this was on a 3-acre lot or a larger lot, I would probably be, much less reactive, but I have significant concern about the 10-foot, 10.5, I guess it is, side yard setback. I feel that could have a very detrimental effect to the streetscape. And I imagine, I don't like to shoot down anyone's project, especially when they're aesthetically attractive as this one is, but I have a great deal of difficulty with the encroachment on the side yard. And I don't know how to address it, other than to just say, I feel it's gotta be, I think we have to be appreciative and sensitive to the very issue, which is the variance, and that is that it should be 32 feet. It's a corner lot, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes.
It's corner lot, yes.
So I just feel like, that projection, that doesn't just impact one corner, it impacts, in one street, it impacts two. And I do
Well,
have.
in fact, the front yard setback is compliant from Tuxedo Road. So the addition is actually set back far enough from Tuxedo Road and complies with the required front yard setback for that frontage. The applicant is only seeking variance relief for the setback from Tremont.
I understand, but it's still, even though from a distance from Tuxedo, it still projects within, it extends the built structure across the Tuxedo line in a way that makes me uncomfortable. I mean, I don't live in the neighborhood. I'm not the neighbor. So, but my gut feeling is it's a little more of a, I'm not comfortable with that shallow of a setback from the property line, unless there's some way you can prove to me that it can be mitigated.
I just want to clarify for the purposes of this meeting, the commission is discussing this application to make comments to the zoning board of adjustment, who will ultimately adjudicate the proceedings on this variance relief. So the commission members need to just, convey their comments on the variance if they so choose, and the proposed design as well, to the zoning board for them to make their decision. We've heard a combination of comments. Mr. Rooney indicated that he was okay with the setback. So I anticipate the commission coming to consensus on a, comment and memo that indicates that there was mixed consensus, mixed opinions regarding the variance relief for the front yard setback from Tremont Place.
Thank you, Graham. And then we've come to that before. So I think that's very.
Yeah, there is precedent to that.
Can I see a plan that shows neighboring properties? Do you have any satellite view? Okay.
That's on the first page of the plan that you received as well.
Is that the drawing? Is that it?
Yeah.
See, that to me, that doesn't give me sufficient enough information to make to really appreciate what's going on here. I feel like, to me, this is somewhat deceptive because or incomplete information. And
I think we're starting, Mr. Greenbaum, we're starting to go into the territory of what the zoning board will deliberate, and the variance relief is specific to the individual property, not necessarily with respect to the adjacent properties. It needs to be viewed in certain contexts, and there is certain criteria, including hardship provisions or benefits outweighing the detriments of the proposed variance relief. So the zoning board of adjustment has a lot of different criteria and justifications that they need to hear from the applicant in order to grant the deviations from the strict application of the zoning ordinance.
Oh, I think,
I think that in this case, as the commission is discussing, as Ms. Bennett alluded to, it's important for the commission to couch their commentary to the zoning board of adjustment with respect to the proposed potential historic district and what impacts there may be to that value of this neighborhood and the variance that's being sought by the applicant.
right.
So I think it's important to maintain those comments as you present them to the board of adjustment.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that degree of shallow setback, in my mind, is detrimental. And I recognize I'm all too familiar with the variance issues in this town.
Okay. Well, you've stated your opinion. So we'll see if anyone else has the same opinion.
Wait, let me just say something though, just along the lines that I don't believe.
You've already stated your opinion.
No, I'm not finished. The presentation as it is presented does not give us sufficient representation of the impact to truly weigh the detriment of the impact. So if there was a way to mitigate the detriment.
If I could just advise the plan submitted here. If I could just advise, the plan submitted here by the applicant is compliant with the required checklist items for a single family dwelling application to the Board of Adjustment. It is only major site plan applications that require the applicant to draw and demonstrate all buildings within 100 feet of the subject property and all buildings located on adjacent lots. That is not a requirement for application submissions for single family dwelling applications to the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
But
Just
in this
wanted
particular case,
to clarify that.
Is a means to mitigate detriment. I would want to see evidence to show means to mitigate detriment. At this time, there's nothing here that would lead me to believe that the detriment is mitigated.
I think that you've stated your opinion about the side yard setback. And I think now it's time to move on to see if anyone else has the same opinion. John, are you finished with your comments?
I haven't made any.
No,
let's finish with David, and then John, I'll ask you.
No, my two principal issues is I think the building, the secondary, the building, the addition, it is, I think it could be reduced in scale that in a way that would perhaps mitigate some of the detrimental effect.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Reimnitz, do you have comments, please?
Oh, John, we lost you again. Is it your wire or something?
I'm good.
How's that?
Sure.
That's it. Now we've got you.
No.
We lost you again, John.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Gee whiz, something's going on there. Can we look at the elevation page?
Yes.
Okay, if we could look at the south elevation, second floor, zoom in on the upper floor there. It looks like there's a single window in the upper floor as opposed to a double window. Is that the intent?
We can amend it if it is the better option.
It looks different than your renderings.
Yeah.
Your renderings show it's all the same, and this looks like,
Yeah.
I think this is a mistake perhaps.
Yeah.
Let's go to the west elevation for a second. I think this addition would be more successful if indeed it pulled in left and right, and that the pilaster, I'll call it a pilaster, this is what I call a pilaster. Pilaster left and right was the same width. Yeah, that and that was the same as what's on the north and south elevation, meaning that you turn the corner with the same detail. I think that would make that more successful and reduce the scale down a little bit. And finally, the last thing, I just want to talk about what you're making this out of. I think you might be a little, wood is wood. You know, there's all different kinds of wood. And I think if you're talking wood here, you're probably talking, if you're really talking wood and you want this to last, you're going to be making this out of mahogany and painting it. If you're talking about making it out of cedar or fir and paint, it's going to start falling apart on you. So I would really take a hard look at how you're building this and the materials you're using. I think it looks great what you've done here, just with some adjustments. As far as, you know, the setbacks, I leave that. I think is somewhat problematic, Steve, because I don't know what keeps everyone from really getting into front yard setbacks, but I will leave that alone for the moment. I think those other little adjustments would help this a lot. That's it.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
And I would just like to comment that driving around the neighborhood, I think you gave a good explanation of the additions that are on these type of houses, this era house, and they're all one story. I think you should recognize that woodwork that is holding up that porch, you know, that decorates that porch is very beautiful. It's a fretwork that I would have liked to have seen in this design, you know, your proposed design. I mean, you've gone, there it is. It's very fanciful, which is a good relief against the, you know, the very symmetry of the rest of the house. I think it's just beautiful. I really hate to see that go, but of course I understand the need that you have, you know, for more interior space. So while I find that the new proposed design to be acceptable, I still wish I could see something more like this, more fanciful. I do agree with John's remarks about reducing the pilaster width on the west elevation, and also his remark about the window on the smaller one. I think it's the north elevation. Yep. So I think you have to keep that in consideration. And I also agree with Mr. Greenbaum about the you know, the width of it. If there was something that you could do to make it a little bit smaller, but I don't know how you would do that if you are in fact keeping the double door leaded. Are those leaded glass or is that wood?
No, they're wood. They're wood.
The wooden windows. I don't know how you would be able to do that. So overall, I'm in agreement. I think the cornice, as Margaret has pointed out, is too bold for this design. And I think part of that was what I spoke about before with the delicate fretwork of your original porch. So I think that needs to be reworked.
Okay.
And Margaret, is there anything else that you, no, okay. And then of course, depending, what we would ask is that all the additional details on the type of materials come back to us for consideration. So is there any?
We'll send those through.
Okay. So about the, I know we have it sounds like we have a difference of opinion about the setback on the south side with the members. Yes?
Yeah, based on my notes, it was Mr. Heineman and Mr. Rooney were okay with the setback encroachment. Sounds like Mr. Greenbaum and Mr. Reimnitz were less so. So we can certainly craft, and you, Madam Chair, also less so. So we can certainly craft a statement, you know, that alludes to the difference of opinions and the impact on the potential historic area.
I would want to say, in addition to a diversity of opinion, I would say I'm adamantly against the application from a point of view of the variance, not because of the design, but because of the degree of detriment to the streetscape. I think 10 feet 5 inches is way too short of a space between the street and the facade of a building. And just a side note, I happen to agree with Madam Chair's commentary about the side patio section and the beautiful fretwork. I feel that's it's incredibly unfortunate to lose that, you know, and I think being that even though that does exceed the side yard setback, it's open, it's transparent, and there's no, it doesn't impose itself upon the streetscape, whereas I think this does quite severely.
Yeah, and the intention was to use as much windows as possible, and that's why we're going with the wood material, not brick, to keep the airy feel of the addition and to your point, not impose on the setback.
Right.
I personally would love to say yes if it was on a different lot. My issue is the lot.
Okay, and this,
just a reminder, the commission is not saying yes or no
Right.
to this. That'll be the zoning board of adjustment.
right, we are only making recommendations. So Graham, what are our recommendations? Could you just go through them
I'm
again?
going to carry forward the cornice commentary from Ms. Hickey's report. As Mr. Reimnitz noted, modify the center window at the upper floor on the south elevation to be similar to the other windows on the second floor and their operability. Narrow the pilasters on the west elevation to match the pilaster width on the north and south elevations. And then the applicant is to consider the finished materials in context of wear and weathering of the facade, and also return to the commission for a final review of all the finished materials should the application be approved by the board.
Can I just say something? I really think that to list all those things and to make the statement that, we want to see the materials when they come back completely dilutes the main essence of the issue here that we're here to adjudicate, whether this is appropriate within this particular historic district. From a design point of view, we can make commentary, but I think
it's important, Mr. Greenbaum, to discern a couple of facts here. First, this is not a historic district. This is identified as a potential historic resource area warranting further study in the master plan. Second, the commission, by way of 347-142, is afforded the opportunity to provide comments and advice on the application to the Board of Adjustment. The overarching opening statement of the memorandum, as we would do in all reports to the Board of Adjustment, will be the findings of the commission on the application, which will indicate the mixed difference of opinion regarding the variance relief being requested by the applicant. It will indicate that some members were in favor and did not, find concern or detrimental impact to the potential historic resource area of the variance relief being sought by the applicant, while other members felt that it was detrimental to the potential historic resource area. Then the statement then reads, should the application receive any approval by the Board of Adjustment granting variance relief, then the application will be subject to those conditions. It's important to maintain the conditions that we discussed this evening because, the Board of Adjustment needs to impose something and carry forward the comments of the HPC this evening, onto the application. Otherwise, the commission will lose that ability. So it's important to, make sure that the comments that we have this evening carry forward and, have an impact should the application be approved. It will be entirely up to the Board of Adjustment what they do in this case. I've seen a number of applications. I've been with the Board of Adjustment for 6 years now. I've seen a number of different situations. I could see the Board of Adjustment saying, no, you have to align it with the existing porch. I could see the Board of Adjustment saying, no, the setback needs to be 12 feet. I mean, there's a lot of different things that the Board of Adjustment will consider. They have also provided notice to their neighbors within 200 feet, published in the newspaper. There's a lot of other factors at play. I think that what's important this evening is that the commission be sure to provide comments specific to the potential historic resource area in Tremont Place and make sure that those comments resonate with the board through this report.
And to that, Graham, I'd like to add that we've seen this quite recently. I think it was 2 meetings ago on the corner with the corner property on Watchung and I think Waterbury, where
That's
they
correct.
wanted to. Pardon?
That's correct. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and then we made our comments, and it went before the zoning board, and the zoning board denied the application.
That's
exactly.
correct.
So I think we need to keep that in mind, and I think we go forward with what Graham has just outlined on our recommendations to the zoning board.
I will add that something is being built on the corner of Waterbury and Watchung.
They came in with a compliant retaining wall height.
Okay, well, it's under construction.
It is under construction.
Okay. So when is this going to be heard by
This
the
is scheduled for the May 5th Board of Adjustment meeting.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, and look forward to seeing you again. Take care. Bye. Okay, our next order of business is the certificates and resolutions. And Graham sent these through yesterday, I guess. Let me just
Yes.
find my packet. I'm sorry, where are they? Oh, Graham, maybe you can put them up on the screen. I seem to.
I'm working on that right now, so.
Okay.
Okay.
It's that time of night. I've lost it all.
No worries. Okay.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to read through this one, which is the PNR properties 108 to 110 Bloomfield Avenue? Yes?
And just to note, it's Mr. Heineman and Mr. Rooney and Ms. Bennett are eligible on the certificate.
To vote, okay.
Correct.
So may I have a motion to
Motion to approve.
and second? Chase? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Our next one, Graham?
Sure. The next one is 18-30 South Fullerton Avenue. This was the window replacement that occurred at that building on the corner. And as this work was completed, there were no follow-up conditions of approval that were required. This was a post-installation approval.
And are we all eligible to vote for this, correct?
Yes, everyone is eligible to vote for this one.
Okay, a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and then the third one?
Is 206 Bellevue Avenue. This is Rose Sandwiches. This was a kitchen hood installation and signage installation at the storefront.
Okay.
And we just have 3 conditions that were imposed here.
Yes, and we're all eligible to vote on this as well.
That's correct.
Okay. So a motion to approve
Motion to approve.
and second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
Okay. And I think that brings us to the end of the meeting. Yes, so we'll see you next meeting, which is May 20th, I believe. Correct, Graham? May 20th?
Yes, Thursday, May 20th will be the next meeting.
Okay, great. So we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, second?
Second.
All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you, Margaret.
Aye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Graham.